No one expected this. While the rest of the NBA played it safe this offseason, tweaking their rosters, shuffling role players, the Los Angeles Clippers went rogue. They didn't just make moves, they detonated their depth chart. Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, Brook Lopez, John Collins. 4 veterans, 4 big names, 4 massive risks. And here's the thing. This team wasn't built to win in a couple years. It wasn't built to develop chemistry over time. It was built to win now, right now, or never. Because with a core this old, this injury-prone, and this expensive, the margin for error isn't small. It's non-existent. So the question is simple. Did the Clippers build a super team, or just accelerate their own downfall? Let's break it all down. Let's rewind. The Clippers won 50 games last season. Solid record, right? But when the playoffs hit, they flamed out in the first round, taken out in 7 games by the defending champion Denver Nuggets. Most teams would have shrugged that off. Let's run it back. Let's stay healthy and see what happens. Not the Clippers. Instead, they ripped apart their depth chart and flipped the script. They let Norman Powell, one of their most consistent scorers, walk to Miami. Then they dropped a bombshell. Beal, CP3, Lopez, and John Collins were all heading to LA. This wasn't a rebuild. This wasn't a retool. This was an all-out declaration of war on the Western Conference. And it wasn't flashy. It wasn't viral. It wasn't trendy. But it was calculated. They brought in veterans with playoff reps, respected voices, and diverse skill sets. No nonsense. No filler. On paper, this is one of the deepest rosters the Clippers have ever had. But depth is only useful if the parts actually fit. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating and so risky. Let's start with the move that barely made headlines, Brook Lopez. You might think, Lopez? He's 36. He's not even starting. But that's exactly the point. For a team that's cycled through backup bigs like Moses Brown, Mo Bamba, and Mason Plumlee, Lopez is a massive upgrade. He's not here to be a star. He's here to stabilize. Last season in Milwaukee, Lopez averaged 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.9 blocks per game. Quiet numbers, but they only tell half the story. For nearly a decade, Lopez has been one of the NBA's most elite rim protectors. He's not flashy. He's not athletic, but he's fundamentally elite at the one thing the Clippers lacked, defending the paint. And then there's his shooting. Over the past 7 seasons, he's attempted nearly 5 threes a game at a 35.7% clip. He's a stretch 5 who gives the Clippers lineup flexibility they've never had. Want to go big? Play him next to Zubac. Want to stretch the floor? Sub him in for 5-out sets. And here's the kicker. He's doing all this in just 15 to 20 minutes per night. Low maintenance, plug and play. Brook Lopez is the perfect veteran big for a team with title aspirations, but he's not the only one bringing playoff scars to this locker room. Chris Paul is back in LA, not as the franchise centerpiece, not as the Lob City savior, but as the wise, grizzled general in the back of the army. The reunion isn't about nostalgia, it's about need. Paul is 40 years old. He's not dropping 20 and 10 anymore. He's not locking down Damian Lillard or diving for loose balls in crunch time. But he's still one of the smartest players in the league, still a surgeon with the ball in his hands. Last year with the Spurs, CP3 quietly suited up for all 82 games. That's right, 82. He averaged 8.8 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 7.4 assists per game, shooting over 37% from deep and 92% from the line. And he only turned the ball over 1.6 times per night. In other words, he was precise, reliable, calm. The Clippers don't need vintage CP3. They need someone who can run the second unit, organize the offense when Harden sits, and remind everyone what poise under pressure looks like. And right now, there's no better man for the job. If Lopez is the quiet upgrade and CP3 is the cerebral one, then Bradley Beal is the wild card. When the Clippers traded Powell to Miami, eyebrows were raised. Powell had just put up 21.8 points per game on nearly 42% from deep. He was efficient, dependable, comfortable in his role. Then came Beal, a flashier name, a bigger ceiling, and a far riskier bet. Beal's stint in Phoenix was complicated. Between injuries, awkward fits with Durant and Booker, and a general sense of uncertainty, his impact never fully materialized. But the raw numbers weren't bad. 17.6 points, 4 assists, 50.5% from the field, and over 40% from three. He can still hoop. And most importantly, he now understands how to thrive off the ball. He had to adjust his game in Phoenix, and that experience is crucial for what he's walking into in LA. He's not expected to be a 30-point scorer. He's expected to cut, hit catch and shoot threes, and take over when Kawhi or Harden sit. That's what separates him from Powell, that ability to shift into a lead role when the moment calls for it. But again, it all hinges on health, and that's a massive if. Then there's John Collins, the final piece of the Clippers' chaos puzzle. He averaged 19 points and 8 rebounds last season with the Jazz, shooting nearly 40% from deep. He brings a mix of bounce, power, and finesse that this roster was screaming for. In a Western Conference that's getting huge, with front courts like Jokic and Valanciunas in Denver or Chet Hartenstein in OKC, Collins is a critical addition. He's not just a floor spacer, he's a lob threat for Harden, a secondary rebounder next to Zubac, a mobile big for switch-heavy defenses, and he gives the Clippers lineup versatility, small ball fives, power forward pairings, even some 3 big looks if necessary. The best part? He's only 26. Amid all the old heads, Collins brings some sorely needed youth and energy. He doesn't need plays run for him. He doesn't complain, he just goes. Every contending team needs a guy like that. So let's put this all together. At point guard, James Harden is still elite as a playmaker. Chris Paul and Chris Dunn round out the position with smarts and defense. At the 2, you've got Bradley Beal, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and rookie Cam Christie, all of whom can shoot, pass, and move. Kawhi Leonard anchors the wing, backed up by athletic 3-and-D guys like Derrick Jones Jr. In the front court, Collins and Batum provide a balance of power and experience, while Zubac and Lopez anchor the center spot. That's size, that's defense, that's scoring, that's depth. And for the first time in years, it actually feels like the Clippers built a team, not just a collection of names. But now comes the part Clippers fans are tired of hearing: health. Kawhi Leonard has played 1 full season in his entire career. 1. Last season, 37 games. That's it. And the difference when he plays is night and day. When Kawhi was on the court, the Clippers went 18-3 down the stretch with the #1 offense in the league. No surprise, he's the glue, the engine, the balance. But if he's not there, it all gets shaky. Bradley Beal? He's played 50, 53, and 53 games over the last 3 years. Chris Paul is 40. Brook Lopez has been healthy recently, but age is undefeated. Even Harden, though durable lately, has logged heavy minutes for years. This roster is full of guys who could miss 20-plus games without blinking. And if they're not careful, they might never get a chance to build chemistry before the playoffs hit. Speaking of chemistry, this locker room is going to be fascinating, because here's the truth. When you add this many veterans, guys who've been stars, starters, and leaders elsewhere, you get ego, you get expectations, you get politics. Who starts? Who finishes? Who gets the ball in the clutch? Bradley Beal isn't used to standing in the corner. Chris Paul isn't used to coming off the bench. John Collins isn't used to playing limited minutes. It all sounds fine in theory. Do it for the team. Buy in. But what happens when the minutes shrink and the wins don't come? What happens when the playoffs start and rotations tighten? That's when the real test begins. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The West is loaded. OKC just won a title and added even more depth. Denver still has Jokic. Houston looks like a juggernaut with their mix of youth and star power. If the Clippers stay healthy and gel, they can hang with any of them. But a bad matchup, or worse, a couple of bad injuries, and it could be over before it starts. They need to avoid the play-in. They need to land a favorable first-round draw. And most of all, they need to be available when it counts. Because as good as this roster looks, there's no cushion here. No rebuilding year, no patience. So what's the final verdict? Did the Clippers build a super team, or just stack the final pieces of a very expensive house of cards? Truth is, it could go either way. If Beal buys in, if Kawhi stays healthy, if Lopez holds up, if CP3 still has juice, this could be a Western Conference Finals team. Maybe more. But if any of those pieces crack, or worse, fall apart, then the whole thing collapses. That's the gamble. They're not betting on development. They're betting on timing. on health, on leadership. It's one of the boldest offseason overhauls in recent memory. No noise, no hype, just cold, calculated moves. But bold doesn't always mean brilliant. Only time will tell. So what do you think? Are the Clippers finally ready to break through? Or is this the final chapter in a decade of what-ifs? Let us know in the comments. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Because one thing's for sure, whatever happens in LA this season, it won't be quiet.